Hey, welcome to Talk Tuesday. If you've been here before, welcome back. Talk Tuesday is our weekly segment where we go over tips to help you enhance your finances. I'm Coach D, and I want to help you to reach and exceed your financial goals while still enjoying life in the process. Today, we are going to discuss how interest affects your debt. This whole month, we have been discussing debt. So far, this is our third live. We'll have one more next week, or we'll finish the month off as far as with this topic. So if you missed any, go back, watch the replay. Prior to that, we discussed credit. Next month, we'll discuss savings. So just tune in, tune in. We always have something that's here to help you in some way in regards to your finances. So if you're not subscribed, definitely subscribe. So let's get into it. Hello, hello. I love that you guys were here before I was even here. I love the comments already in the chat. Thank you so much. Hey, thank you for tuning in. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate you. And so let's get into it. I'm not going to keep you long today. And let me know how you guys are doing too, because oh, look at the numbers going up. You guys are coming in. You guys make me so excited. Thank you. All right, so we're going to talk about how interest affects debt, and let's get into it. So, what exactly is debt? So, debt is something that you borrow that you must repay, which most times is money. And then your interest is the price you pay to borrow that money. So, if you're borrowing from a lender or whoever you're borrowing from, if they charge you interest, that is where they make their money at. So interest is typically charged at a rate that is an annual rate, and then you pay it monthly or however often your payments are. Maybe you might have something that you pay weekly, something you pay bi-weekly. Some things are more flexible because they want to make it easier for you to make those payments back. So some fluctuate. Some might not be monthly, some might be bi-weekly, some might be weekly. So it really varies. But I'm going to give you an example of a good debt. I'm going to give you, not a good debt, a high interest rate. I'll give you an example of a low interest rate. And actually, good debt, bad debt is what we discussed last week. That's why I just said that. Let's see in the comments. Hey, thank you for tuning in. You had a great day today. Happy to be here with you and the people in the chat. Awesome. So glad that you had a great day and so glad that you're excited to be here with us. We appreciate you. I thank every last one of you guys for being here. All right, so let's go into it. So let's give an example of good debt. Oh, I keep saying good debt, bad debt. I'm thinking about last week, but give you an example of a lower interest rate. So, believe it or not, a lower interest rate, as far as talking about debt, would be 12%. Before, like depending on what you're getting. So, like an auto loan, that's better 2%, 3%, something like that. If you depend on your credit union, you might have a 1%, depending on what kind of car it is. But, now the way the economy is, not a lot of stuff is that low. But as far as credit cards, that's where I was kind of using those numbers I pulled. So before I had a credit card that was about 9.9% for so many years, maybe like 15, 16 years. And then eventually, maybe COVID time, they increased my interest rate to 12.9, I want to say. Interest rate. And that was, still considered good. But that was my lowest interest rate I had on all my credit cards, because credit cards interest rates are typically higher because they want to make that money. So, so now, just for sake of number wise, our good interest rate far as debt would be 12%. So I'm going to use that as an example. So let's say you had a credit card where you had $1,000 limit and you were to pay back that $1,000 with a 12% interest rate. So that would take you approximately 6 years to pay that back, saying that you pay the minimum. You didn't use a card anymore. It was just that $1,000. So that would be almost 6 years paying the minimum with 12% interest rate, and you would pay back around $1,400 total. So your original 1,000 plus 400 in interest, you would pay for that. But remember, that's assuming that you don't use that card anymore. A lot of times when we have some debt or when we have some credit, we'll use our card, we'll pay it back, we'll use it again. So most times you won't pay back just that 400 in interest because you're using it, you're paying it back, you're using it, you're paying it back. So it's almost like they just keep getting it from you longer and longer and longer because you never pay it down to zero. But just keep that in mind. Good debt or a good interest rate you're paying back $400 for borrowing $1,000, and they will stretch it out for up to about 6 years, based on my calculations. So just that's something to think about, you know. And then on the other end, let's talk about a higher interest rate. Let's say we did double that. We did 24% interest rate, which is, you know, we think when we hear the difference, 12% and 24, we're like, you know, well, maybe, you know, that's not that high. That is high. And right now, a lot of credit cards are higher than that. When you go to the stores, like, um, I don't want to say what kind of store, but if you go to like a stores in the mall, they'll give you the credit cards, and the store cards, they'll be starting at like 29% interest rate. For sake of my numbers, I'm going to just say 24%, but just think most are higher than that. So just thinking 24%, that same $1,000 that you borrowed, it will take you about 10 years to pay it back. That same $1,000, you're paying the minimum interest rate, I mean, the minimum payment due, and you would pay back over $2,000. And it take you that long. So just be mindful. The purpose of this one is just to explain to you how interest affects your debt. You're paying so much back, and then what they do is they stretch it out so far that, you know, and your payments are little, so it doesn't affect you, because like, oh, I'm just paying this $25 back every month, or I'm paying this $30 or $29, you know, whatever they make your minimum payment. It's a little bit, so it doesn't bother you. So it's like, oh, I'm just paying this little bit. Who cares? You know, pay the minimum, pay the minimum, pay the minimum. And then sometimes we'll double back and use it again. But it's their benefit, because every month they're charging you that interest rate. It's going up and up and up. And then when you do, you know, usually when you use it, pay it back, use it, then they're going to increase your limit, which is going to give you more than that thousand that you already had. So then guess what? We're going to spend even more. We're going to go higher than that. We're going to go up. Then what if we have $2,000? So, and then some, you know, and it goes 3,000, 4,000, depending on your credit. That's another thing. Your interest also affects your credit, and your credit affects your interest. It's really sad that they are taking advantage of the customers. Yes, it is sad. It is sad. I don't know if I would say taking advantage, but it is taking advantage, I guess, because you have to look at what you're signing when you sign up for these cards or sign up for to get this debt, whatever kind of debt it might be. You are signing on that line. Take the time. Don't rush, because if they're going to give it to you, you're going to give it to you. You know what I mean? When you're signing your paperwork, really look at it. See what your interest rate is that you're agreeing to. I mean, it's not like you really have a choice, because if you're signing up for it, you're going to accept the rates that they give you, but just read it and be mindful of it. Look at exactly how much interest that you're signing up for. Look at, depending on what it is, if it's not a credit card and maybe it's like an auto loan, for example, they will tell you exactly how much you're borrowing, how much you're going to pay in full in interest, how many months you're going to be paying it. And usually when you're paying it back in the beginning, not usually all the time, when you're paying it back, the beginning payments are going majority to your interest. You're not even touching the money that you actually borrowed till a little bit later on down the line. So just be mindful when you sign up for stuff. See what it is, and don't be fooled by, you know, when you go to places and they offer you the cards and they give you the little zero interest rate, you know, starting interest rate. That's how they get you too, because they'll have you to, you know, and then sometimes they'll even say, if you spend such and such amount of dollars, zero interest rates, or and things like that. So they're making you spend more money in the beginning, and then they give you a time frame until when the interest would start. So let's say you don't pay it back in that time frame, then, you know, as long as you have a balance when that time frame, let's say it was for 6 months. Come 6 months, if you haven't paid it down to zero, guess what? You're going to get hit with that interest. You're going to have to pay that back. So that's where they win. Because most times, when you borrow or when you get one of those zero introductory rate interest rates, people just typically use the card, of course, because it's 0%. Like, what? I can't beat that. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to get this stuff. I'm going to ring it up because I'm not paying to borrow it. I can just use it. Then I'll pay it right back, you know. And then we forget, or other things come up, or, oh, that's just a little bit of interest. I'm not going to worry about that. Then that's how they get us, because now they throw in all that interest. And then your little small minimum payment that were paying every month while you had the introductory rate, that shoots up. So now we have the shock of now our monthly payment increases, how much we had to pay in full increases. So just be mindful too when you have those introductory rates. And not only the introductory rates, sometimes they'll have little sales for holidays. Like what's coming up? Memorial Day. They might, your credit card company might send you something and say, we're having a sale or opportunity. I don't know what they call it, but they'll say we have something where if you buy something this week, you spend $250, then you won't have to pay interest for 6 months. But keep in mind, if you already have something on this card and now you spend $250 to avoid interest and get something that they want you to spend your money, then when you're paying your card back, everything you're paying is going to the beginning purchases, not to your 250. So most people are fooled and think that, once I spend now for the 0% for 6 months for this 250, I'm gonna pay that back really quick. But when you're paying your money back, it's going to actually your beginning payment. So unless you pay that card all the way to zero, you'll never touch the 250 that you got the interest free. So in 6 months, guess what? All the interest will come on there because it appears that you still have the whole 250 because you were paying this part. So that's something else to be aware of. Oh, let's see what the comments. Let me see. I'm sorry, I was just talking. If you already signed up for them and they go up afterwards, that's what I don't appreciate. Yes, yes, that's something that it's hard to accept that, but it's almost like they have you stuck. They'll send you something in writing and let you know your interest rate's going to change in a certain amount of days. Give you the opportunity to close the card, but then they will prevent you from closing it, especially if you have a balance. You can't close it until you pay your balance off. But it does stink when you have an interest rate. Then they say, well, we're increasing our interest rate. Like, well, dang, so that really sucks. That does suck. So true. Usually I forget. Yep. Yep. We forget. We forget and we're not paying attention and they don't care. And they're not going to remind us that it's coming. That'll be on your bill, probably on the last page, real small, just saying like, deferred interest. And it would typically show you how much interest is actually going to hit when your period of no interest ends. Or skip your payment is another trick they use. Yes, that's another trick they use because if you have something, usually they do it with like auto loans. So, they'll say you can skip a payment and, if it's usually around the holiday time. So what of course I'm going to skip it so I can get some more gifts for my family and friends and things like that. But you're going to pay all that interest as if well, actually not as if you because it's the same. So you will pay interest for that whole month and then you're going to pay them an extra month of interest. They're just going to tack it on. Yeah, they just get us one way or another. They do. So how you get them is paying off your credit or your debt, whatever you want to call it, paying it off in full. Paying it off in full. That way you benefit. You get to borrow it and pay it off really quick, and then you don't have to pay them that interest. That's your benefit. And your win is getting a card that has rewards that you can also benefit from, which could be if you're somebody who likes to travel, get you a card that has rewards for mileage. You're someone who, you drive a lot, get you a card that has rewards for gas. There's different type of cards out there. Some, might be for eating out at restaurants. There's so many cards out there. And find the reward that best suits your lifestyle so that could be to your benefit. So let's see, what else was I going to talk about? Oh, I have went into it, but I didn't finish. But basically, how your interest rate affects your credit, and your credit affects your interest rate. So your if your credit score is not, super good, then when you apply for stuff, you're going to pay a higher interest rate than someone who has a better credit score, and that will make you pay even more for the same thing that someone else is getting, and vice versa. Let's say I learned a lot from you. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you, so sweet. Thank you so much. Um, And then for vice versa, your interest rate affects your credit. So let's say your interest rate is higher and maybe, you're paying your stuff back and, it gets to be a struggle. And maybe you run into one of those incidents where all of the interest hits from a period where you were in a period where it was supposed to be no interest and your time ran out. Well, now it's going to increase what you have on your credit card. That interest might add on and send you over the limit, which could affect your credit, or put you closer to your limit, which could affect your credit. So it works. It works both ways. So just be mindful of your interest that you're paying. Be mindful of what you're paying, the limits of your credit cards. If you have a loan, just be mindful of what you're agreeing to. Any type of debt you get, just take a moment to read it. Don't let anyone pressure you, rush you, or things like that. But if they're rushing you, then chances are something's a little fishy with it. So take your time. And then if it's something that maybe you're in a situation and you just, maybe it's something that you like really need, then sometimes we just have to do it, right? We have to do it. But immediately set a plan, create a plan to actually pay it off. So whatever type of debt you have, whatever interest rate you have, create a plan to eliminate it, pay it off. That should be your focus, to eliminate that. And then all that money you were paying on your debts monthly, you can use it for savings or use it for a vacation. It's warming up now. We're in May. Everyone should be planning a vacation soon, if not already went on one. So, think about that. Think about where you can put your money, something where you can benefit from. But those were my tips for today. I hope this was all helpful for you. I hope you learned something. I hope it was a little interesting. And hopefully, as always, it makes you think about things, think about your finances. That's all I want to do every week, is to have you think about things differently or understand things differently, or just to help you out. Okay. So again, I'm Coach D. I am live every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern here on YouTube, where we go over tips to help you enhance your finances. Definitely tune in next week, where we're going to finish the month with debt. I'm not sure exactly what we're going to talk about. I forget. But I already have the topic listed. But we're going to talk about that next week, and finish our month. And then next month, we'll go into savings. You're very welcome. It was helpful. Awesome. Thank you, guys. I appreciate you. As always, seriously, I thank you for being here. But you don't have to be here, so I thank you. After this video post, if you found this interesting, please share it with someone that it could, benefit, that they can help, learn from this topic. All right. So thank you. See you next week. Have a great evening.